guys and welcome, my name is Jude and today I am here to do a review for The Killing Forest by Sara Blaedel. Sara Blaedel is a Danish author known for her crime fiction, and it turns out she is the author of a very popular series called the Louis Rick series, and The Killing Forest is the 5th installment in it. Which I didn't find out until I had already finished it, so I read the 5th book in a series as a standalone. What happened was that this book appeared to me as a recommendation on my Audible page, and it just said like, oh, The Killing Forest! It's great, read it! And I was like, okay fine, I will do that without researching it, I'm just gonna read it. And I did. And when I finished it, I went down to my Goodreads page to mark it as read, and oh sorpresa! When I went to the Goodreads page for the book, it said the title, and right next to it in big letters, the 5th book in the Louis Rick series. It turns out that on the Audible main page it says the title of the book, and then in the book details it says right there in small letters the 7th book in the series. That's something that actually doesn't make a lot of sense because Goodreads says it's the 5th book in a series and Audible says it's the 7th, so which one is it? I don't know. But the point is that there's a lot of previous books to this one, so yeah, I missed that. But keeping that in mind, it's a really great book and it reads really well as a standalone. And let me say this right now, I definitely recommend it to you as a standalone. You can totally go for it, like go for it. Unless you want to start the whole thing from start to finish, that's also fine too. Just read something from this because it was great. So on that, I think the author deserves some applause because, I mean, she was great. I never felt lost. I felt like I got all the information that I needed and I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed it a lot. Sure, once I actually found out that it was a series, in hindsight I was like, oh, okay, now that makes sense. Because there were certain details that were just like a given, and I was like, oh, so that's happening? Okay. For example, the main character has a son, and I didn't know, the kid just appears out of nowhere. She gets home after a long day of work and the kid's just like there, and I'm like, is that her brother? Is that her kid? Like, what is it? And he was never introduced as like, oh, there he was on the couch, my son. No, I just kind of had to figure that out, and I was like, oh, so yeah, she has a son. That's cool. So knowing now that it's a series, I am guessing that in one of the previous 4 books, he's actually introduced. I think, I assume. So it was just small details like that now I'm like, okay, it's because it was a series. But when I was reading them, they didn't really jump out at me. It was just like, oh, it's the writing style. Or I also thought that maybe it was lost in translation because it is a translated series. So I mean, there's certain things that oftentimes don't translate well. I know that because I'm Mexican and I've read many translated Spanish novels, and they don't always quite work. So I maybe thought that it was that, but now it was just the previous 4 books that I totally missed. Yeah. So having said that, let me just say again that The Killing Forest was really fun. It was like watching a crime series on TV, you know, an episode, and then it's great and you have a lot of fun. Which is actually how the series is meant to be. Louis Rick is a detective and each book it's a new chapter and a new crime to solve. The very first chapter in this book actually narrates the crime that happens, the main thing that drives the whole book, and I gotta say that it was quite intense and quite awful. It is seen through the eyes of a 15-year-old, and the whole thing is just very cruel and very cold. What happens is awful in itself, but the cruelty and just how easily it happens, it's very frightening, and I just felt like so it's that kind of book. And then after that it jumps right into Louis's Rick life and how she finds out about this crime and how she's gathering information to solve it. The whole thing just felt like, you know, there's criminal minds and they have crime scenes and it's like, oh, that's bad. But then there's Hannibal, and the crime scenes there are like, damn! The first chapter felt like a Hannibal crime scene where you're like, that was gruesome. As for the main story, I have to say that the first half of the book is a bit slow-ish, because Louise Rick is gathering information, she's interviewing people, and she's trying to find things out and what happened, so it does take a little bit of time building that up. But the second half of this book is it just gets going. I actually thought that it was a lot. It was quite a wild ride, because I was like, whoa, which makes a lot of sense, you know? She was investigating, looking things up, and doing a lot of desk work, and then she just had to get going, and then she got going. So really, it was all a really fun ride. And as for Louise Rick, I enjoyed her so much. She was such a badass leading lady, and I loved it so much. She was so flawed, and I loved it. It's really funny because throughout most of my reading journey, I've read YA books, and in most of them, the main characters tend to be very perfect. They lack flaws and tend to also suffer from the chosen one syndrome, you know? They are all just the heroes of their particular stories. And it's not until I dove on to different genres and started reading many more books and adult fiction that I just found this whole area where characters are flawed, are kind of dicks, but are still really lovable. And not lovable in the sense that the author is trying really hard to make them like cheeky fun for you. No, it's just that they're very real, you know? Fun characters worthy of being read about, and it's amazing, and Louise Rick is one of them. The book is actually told in two points of view, which is Louise's point of view and her friend, who is also a badass lady. And I really liked that. By that, it was just like, I was like, feminism! Particularly in the mystery thriller side of things, I think many stories are narrated from men's points of view, and I enjoyed this. It's a breath of fresh air. They're badass. They're just great at what they do and admirable. So I really enjoyed The Killing Forest. Again, you can totally read it as a standalone. It's a great, fun chapter. I can totally see this as a series or just a movie. It would be great. It would work awesome. And I already have the first book. I just bought it. I cannot wait to get onto this series as I should have. So I am very excited for that. Hopefully I will jump into the first book next month. But if not, then, well, eventually. I will eventually, because it was great. So The Killing Forest, have you read it? Probably not, because I went onto my Goodreads page and I have like 2,000 friends in Goodreads and barely 10 had marked it as to read, so I don't think it's as popular as it should be. But that's what I'm here for. Let me tell you that you should read it. You will probably like it. If everything that I just said appeals to you, of course. So you should read it. In case you read it, did you like it? Didn't you like it? Why didn't you like it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I cannot wait to read the first book and review it and let you guys know what I think. But yes, so yeah, again, thank you for watching. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!